Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, KB reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part, where we are live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week. John Saponaro back with you from North Hollywood, California. My co-host, Matt Ibanez, holding it down back in New Jersey. And when I say holding it down, I have to give you an extra shout out before I even ask how you're doing, before we even get into the New York Mets, who are the best team in the National League, before we even talk about things that probably are weeks old, but you and I have not had a chance to talk about, and there's plenty to go on with everything that's happening in the here and now. I want to say shout out to everybody in the chat. It is good to be back, but a special shout out goes to my partner, Ibby, for holding it down while I was gone, while I moved, while I broke my hand and started to recuperate, while I took a break from social media. Ibby, I appreciate it very, very, very much. You did a great job. I watched most of a few of the episodes. I listened to all of the episodes, not to check in on you, just because I missed doing the show, but I just had too much going on and I couldn't do the show. So thank you. You did a fantastic job, and I appreciate you so very much. You're a great partner to have in this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, I'm doing well. I'm glad that you're back in the fold. And like I just said, as a joke into the chat, Alexa, play The Boys Are Back in Town. Because it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've been able to have a conversation, because things were a little bit disjointed. Even when you were here last, it was like I did an episode, then you did one, then I took over. So it's been a while. I want to say bordering on 5-6 weeks, whatever it may be, since the last time we've actually had a proper conversation about our Mets, and a lot has gone on in that time. We'll cover, the overarching view like we always do, but there's a lot of stuff to go over that has gone on in the past week, as well as what's to come as well. So we'll get into all of it as much as we can, within a proper time frame, mainly because we got the Mets coming up at 7:10. Game 2 against the Nats should be a good one. City's been rocking. We'll talk all about it in a minute, but overall, doing well. Weather finally turning. Of course, it only turns during the weekdays when I'm at work, and then of course it pours all weekend. But either way, beautiful today. Pushing like 85 degrees, sunny, all the good stuff. So feeling good, feeling great. Wednesday, red lights on. The boys are back. Let's have some.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. If you are not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe right now over on YouTube. We've got some fun stuff coming down the pipeline over the next couple weeks. Ibby and I were just talking before we went live. Some of the things that we're looking to do. I know Ibby's been teasing a giveaway that we're going to get into, but not until we get to 1,300 subscribers on YouTube. We are 6 away, so that could happen during the show. It could happen by the time we record next week, or any time in between. So, there's a lot of fun stuff to do. We appreciate all our day ones. We appreciate all our day 100s. We appreciate all our day 1000s of the folks who have been here with us, along the way. But there is always, always, always room for more. You guys know the super chats are on and ready to go. If you want to get involved in the show that way, you certainly can. Follow us across social media at Til Mets Do Us Part. That's on TikTok. That's Mets on Twitter. That's on Instagram. Speaking of, I'm going to try to get back to those Til Mets morning minutes now that my social media break is over. I saw Zero Cool in the chat saying social media break, good for you. Yeah, sometimes you need it. You got to just reset, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to try to get back into those and some other fun stuff along the way. But let's go ahead. I already shouted out Zero Cool. We got Stanley Babish. We got Darren Rivera. Armand is here. Carlos Ramos. Brad. Jeff Cohen is back. Mess for Less, who says, welcome back, John. I don't remember Mess for Less last time I was here. Are they a new subscriber or new-ish?
I feel as though that's a newish name for me as well. But again, I apologize, Mess, if you have been here when I was here, because managing the chat solo is always tough. So I try to get to as many people as I can. So I don't remember the name, but either way, welcome.
Shout out Mess. Welcome. First time that I can remember seeing that name in the chat. And if I'm mistaken, I apologize. But welcome or welcome back, whatever the case may be. I think I said Brad. We got Rosie K. Darren Rivera. I know I said, scrolling all the way back up to the top, trying to get to as many folks as possible as the room continues to fill up. Just under 100 folks already. We got Clink here as well. And there is so much to talk about with regards to our New York Mets. Ibby, I think we should start with some of the older stuff.
Sure.
Simply because the new stuff, there's a lot of good. And when there's a lot of good, I feel like people can wait for the good. People can wait for, like, let's talk about Juan Soto being Juan Soto. Let's talk about, Jeff McNeil making some alterations in his game and being a very productive member of the lineup. Let's talk about Pete Alonso being an MVP candidate and Lindor being a captain in every sense of the word, and the lineup changes and how the pitching's been great. We could all wax poetic about that. You want to do it. Everybody in the chat wants to do it. I want to get a couple things off my chest really quickly.
Be my guest.
Let's start with Brett Beatty.
Yes, let's start with Brett Beatty.
I know you want to. Okay. So
please do.
If you guys have been listening to this show and watching the show for a long time, by the way, this is episode 199. Next week, we turn the big 200, and I'm excited about that. Look, I want to talk about Brett Beatty because you and I, when we first started talking and doing this show and everything, we talked about it being a therapy session.
Yes.
We talked about how we were always going to be honest and transparent. We're not going to get everything right, but we like to think we know Mets baseball pretty well, and baseball in general pretty well. And I've always said, and you've always said, if we're wrong, we're going to admit when we're wrong.
Of course.
So here's what I will say about Brett Beatty. You know that I'm not a huge Brett Beatty fan.
Yes.
And I still have my doubts. I did not disappear because Brett Beatty was in a hot streak like some people on Twitter thought. Although the timing was pretty convenient for me. I'm not gonna lie about that. Look, I will say this. I had a tweet that got a lot of traction about Brett Beatty giving the car back to Soto.
Yes.
Okay. Brett Beatty can keep the car. Let's get that. Brett Beatty earned the car. Okay. I also have been on and on about Brett Beatty not being a Major League Baseball player, which was a huge step away from even some folks who didn't really believe in Brett Beatty. People were like yourself, where you wanted to believe it. You're like, I think it's going to be somewhere else. I think it can't be here.
Right.
I give credit to Brett Beatty for fighting, battling, going down, coming back up, being a contributor to this team. When I said that Brett Beatty was not a Major League Baseball player, I think no one can argue that the evidence supported my claim. The stats supported my claim when you look at his Major League stats. He has done enough now, in my opinion, that I am not going to sit here and say that he is a quad A player. He is not a bust in the traditional sense of the word, where like this guy's going to be out of the league, which is where his trajectory was.
Right.
So for that portion of it, I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. Like I said, Brett Beatty wears a Mets uniform. I will root for anybody in the uniform. I don't think that he is, I haven't seen enough personally to say that he's the solution in an everyday lineup for a team that's trying to be a playoff contender and a World Series contender every year. I won't go that far. But as far as me saying that he's, destined to be out of the league and it's an embarrassment, he has crossed the threshold now. And I think it took the confidence boost that he needed, but he has crossed the threshold where I can say definitively about that portion of it, I was wrong. And that's all.
I cannot wait to clip that and use that whenever I want from now on moving forward. But no, it's a good thing that, it's always good when we can admit things and look at things properly. And look, John wasn't wrong when he was saying half the stuff that he was saying, because the numbers dictated that, and it was true, and it was rough. And I had said, a handful of weeks ago now, when I was doing this, doing the solos, I said that, look, I didn't give up. I deemed it as I let Brett Beatty go. It's like I had to let go, and then eventually the turnaround happened. It's like I finally set it free, and then it came back. And I said multiple times, the biggest thing was confidence. Last year, his 2-week hot stretch was all based in confidence in the way that he looked. He just seemed like a better player. He seemed as though it finally clicked. Now, when I look at it, it seems as though it clicked even more. And I know Armand put into the chat that, he's 4 for his last 33. Look, no one's going to stay as hot as he was. He was, scorching. And I had said on this show, and I stand by the statement that at that time, he was appointment television for the team because he was hitting so well. And of course, he cooled off like everyone does, the ebbs and flows of baseball. But in general, I think that the confidence is still there. The presence is still there. I look at a guy in the box that I don't think is giving up. I look at a guy that is attacking in the zone, a guy that's not putting himself in a hole 0-2 every single time, where then he goes fishing for pitches. Like, I feel as though he's putting himself in a better spot. And even though the returns haven't been that great lately, I still think that his at-bats have been solid. His glove, whether they've been putting him at second or third. Look, I have my feelings on, Mauricio and Beatty. I still think it should be flipped. I know, lately and tonight also, Mauricio's at third and Beatty's at second. And it seems as though they want Mauricio at third base, which is fine. I'm with it. It's okay. But I just think that Beatty is better as a third baseman if he's going to be a part of your lineup, as opposed to second with, Mauricio there. I think Mauricio could do better at second base as opposed to Beatty at second base. So I feel like but again, everything's clicking for them. They know what they're doing. I'm not going to question. I'm going to let it fly. But in general, Brett, you've been hot. You've cooled off. You look like you belong. I shouldn't say you look. You do belong. And I said that 2 weeks ago, I think it was. So it's good.
But looking like you belong matters, because the
confidence
with him was a major issue. I mean, you talked about getting 0-2 every at bat, and that's what he was doing for the first 6 weeks of the season. I mean, he had, it wasn't that he was hitting 118. It was that he was hitting 118 and his on-base percentage was 118 because he didn't walk, and he was
going to get out of his own way.
Yeah, dude, he was 0-2 and like 75% of his at-bats at one point, or whatever. There was a crazy stat about, like, he kept getting to 2 strikes and he hadn't gotten any full counts. And it was like, oh my God, dude, like, this is a guy who he doesn't look like he belongs because he doesn't feel like he belongs. So I see why you changed the wording, but I also think the wording is appropriate for what Beatty was doing and what he was going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm just happy that the lineup in general. Look, I still have questions about the back end of the lineup and moving forward, and like that's more stuff that we'll get into as time progresses and as the deadline approaches and things like that. But I still have questions about the second half of the lineup, if you will, as we get deeper and deeper into the season, as we have eyes towards October and stuff like that. But I'll reserve those for now. But in the meantime, I think that when it comes to the Beattys and the Mauricios to this point, and the, Tyrone Taylors and Jeff McNeil, like, they're doing enough to keep the lineup going before, to set the table for the guys at the top that have been doing so well. But in general, I'm just happy that, John comes back. I get to say my piece on Beatty, because last year when I had people that were really attacking me when it came to Beatty, they kind of like disappeared. I'm thinking of like people like Tone. Tone disappeared, and he took a sabbatical also when Beatty got hot. And then when he came back, he would like badmouth me because Beatty had turned, into the pumpkin. And it's just like, see, he stinks. I was like, you left me for the 2 weeks I had a chance to actually be on top of the mountain, and I wasn't allowed to have it. But I just, had a little bit of a moment there. So it's good to talk about it. And, I hope you can keep it up, Brett.
Yeah, look, and let's talk about the other 2 guys that have been tangential to this conversation as we kind of move on from Brett Beatty right now. He's not a major topic of conversation, save for our differing opinions of him. And again, my very harsh criticisms of him that, again, I think were well-founded at the time. But, you got to admit, when you're, when you've been presented with new information, you take in that new information and it may change, where your thoughts and your opinions lie. And that's the definition of learning. It's the definition of growing. It's the definition of understanding what's right in front of you. And the other two people that you've already mentioned, we'll start with Jeff McNeil. Yeah. I have long said a couple things about Jeff McNeil as well. I've said that he's a useless offensive player unless he's hitting at least 300. I stand by that metric. Unless, which was always the caveat that I presented, unless he was going to be a different kind of hitter. We saw it in the juiced ball year where he hit just under 20 home runs or whatever he got to, just over 20 home runs, 17, 19, something like that.
It was like either 19 or 21 or something like that.
Yeah, the numbers 19 and 21 stick out in my head. I'm sure somebody will actually tell us what the number was. But that was a juice ball era. And then a lot of people pointed to his return in the second half last year before he got injured. And I always said, well, he's a different kind of hitter, though. If you look at what he did in the second half, he was not selling out to hit home runs, which is a dirty word for a lot of baseball fans who are a bit more old school. He was looking for pitches to drive. He was looking for pitches to do damage with. And you know what? If you're going to praise Daniel Murphy for becoming the hitter that he became, for doing the exact same thing, you can't get on McNeil for hitting 256 or 260 instead of 310 while giving you more pop in the form of doubles, home runs, and sometimes triples. So if he's going to change his approach, then I think he can be a productive hitter. I've always maintained that. And what we're seeing now is Jeff McNeil at what is he, 32 or something like that? 32, I think he's 32, yeah. 31, 32. He is becoming a different kind of hitter, and I think it's the kind of hitter that works better for him and who he is now. I don't think we're ever going to see 300 Jeff McNeil again. But if we see
I don't think so,
250, 260 Jeff McNeil, and he hits, I don't know, even 15, 17 home runs, and he gives you 30 doubles. And, I don't know what he's going to do in terms of actual stats because he was hurt for some of the year and, he's kind of not playing every day and stuff. But like if his projectable numbers give you 15 home runs and 35 doubles, if he projects over 162 to do that, he's a very useful player. Now, I hope he continues that. Armand in the chat saying, McNeil is 33 years old. Thank you for that. Okay. Also saying that he hit 23 home runs in 2019. So thank you for both of those. So look, I just think that when you're looking at the big picture with Jeff McNeil, I don't want to muddy the waters of the conversation here, Ibby, but a lot of people were sort of frustrated and upset with Brandon Nimmo trying to change his approach. And I could understand where that frustration and upset nature was coming from because it didn't seem like it was paying a lot of dividends. Yeah, he was selling out to hit more power, but he kind of wasn't doing anything else well. Like he wasn't seeing a lot of pitches. He was striking out more. He was walking less. He wasn't really driving in runs. Like it was just like, man, I don't know if this is the guy who should be wholesale changing his approach the way that it seemed like he was going about doing. I don't think you can make that criticism of Jeff McNeil, especially Jeff McNeil as he gets older, especially Jeff McNeil where what he was doing wasn't working. Jeff McNeil he didn't hit 320 last year and then come back and be like, I'm a power hitter now. Jeff McNeil hasn't hit over 300 in a couple of years. His strategy wasn't working. His ability wasn't working in that same way anymore. So I think to watch him change his approach a bit, I think it pays dividends. And at 33 years old with a year and a half left on his contract, I think this is the best version of Jeff McNeil you're going to get. And if this is the guy, then I have no problem with Jeff McNeil getting at bats. I have no problem Jeff McNeil being in the lineup, nearly every day. And you know what, Ibby? You and I both got to eat crow on this a little bit. He's played a lot better center field than anyone would have thought. No one's going to confuse him for Tyrone Taylor. Nobody's going to confuse him for Jose Siri, but he's getting a good jump on the ball and he's making all the plays, and that's allowing them to play Mauricio and Beatty at the same time. Before that, Beatty and Vientos. Before that, Vientos and Acuna. And that's been an asset for them. So, you know what? Shout out Jeff McNeil. I hope this is the hitter he is moving forward.
I hope so too, and yeah, definitely got to eat some crow because I've had plenty of jokes on here as well, and thinking how you can always dream bigger Mets fans as opposed to settling. But look, Jeff McNeil numbers since July 1st. Shout out to Joe DeMeo who posted this one before July 1st of 2024. Missed some time obviously with the injury, but the sample size is still pretty strong. 318 plate appearances, a slash line of 269, 355, 516 with an 871 OPS, 20 doubles, 3 triples, 14 home runs, 44 RBIs, and a 142 weighted runs created plus. You'll take that all day.
Absolutely.
At the positions that he's been playing, whether it's second base or center field. You would take those numbers in a heartbeat. So he's providing for this team. It's like to John's point, which was so eloquently put, it's allowing the likes of the Beatties and the Mauricios and eventually the Vientoses of the world to get the playing time, to see what you have. Because I've said multiple times over the last couple of weeks, I honestly feel that while I think that the deadline can be kind of quiet in terms of names that the Mets are actually in on and what they might acquire, it's because it's going to come down to guys that we just mentioned, the Beatties, the Mauricios, the Vientoses of the world, that are going to try to figure out their spots along with the DH spot and how they're going to continue working in Marte, depending on, lefty, righty, whatever. I think that that's going to really dictate. And McNeil being able to provide, and if he's going to be at center, if he's going to be at like wherever he is in the lineup, it's going to allow you to see what you truly need. Now, look, I still think they have to go after an outfielder, but that's just me. But I think that this allows them to get more playing time and to get a better eye on these kids to see, is this what we want moving forward? Do we have to go in a different direction? And because McNeil's playing well, it allows you to get that seeing eye on said players, which is a great thing. So shout out to Jeff McNeil, been playing out of his mind. Fantastic win last night. First pitch swinging, wins the game. Loved it. Means I got to go to sleep earlier. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, and look, certain guys, I've said this as a criticism for Beatty forever, this year, last year. I know that players develop at different paces. We all know that. And that's true of minor leaguers and prospects, and it's true of major league players, right? Look at Griffin Canning. I don't know what Griffin Canning's stats are going to be at the end of this season, but maybe they're probably going to be better than any year he's had in the major leagues. He's 29. Now this might be a career year for him in that regard, and he might never see these numbers again. But again, part of that is luck, part of that is happenstance, but part of that is development. That's why the Mets have a pitching lab that they've put so much stock into. But when I talk about guys being on their last chance, a guy like Acuna, say what you want about him offensively. He's 23 years old. He's had roughly a year in AAA, whether it was with the Mets or, actually just with the Mets for the most part. I was going to say, or the Texas organization, but that's different math than even a guy who's, let's say, a year and a half older, who's 24 going on 25, who's had as much minor league time as Brett Beatty has had at AAA, as Mark Vientos has had at AAA, as Ronny Mauricio has had at AAA. None of those players are old. They're all 25, 24, 26 years old. None of those players are old, but they've all had so many at-bats and so many games at AAA. There is nothing left for them to prove. If Mark Vientos comes back tomorrow, and I know he's not, but fortunately not a major strain of the hamstring, he's probably going to be back by, I don't know, after playing some rehab, July 1st, maybe sooner, if everything goes according to plan. You can send down Luis Angel Acuna, and he can continue to develop. There's development that he can get as a hitter in AAA that Mauricio cannot get, that Beatty cannot get, that Vientos cannot get. So the ability to play McNeil in center field, even if it's just for half the game, 3/4 of the game, whatever the case may be, and get Mauricio and Beatty in the lineup at the same time. And then if Vientos comes back, you put one of those guys in the DH spot, probably Vientos, because he's the worst defender of the three, but you could certainly swap some guys around and be creative a bit with that. That is so important because these three guys, none were drafted by David Stearns. None were really developed by David Stearns, which is also a factor. He got here and they were all pretty late in their development as well. And they're all on the wrong side of, I don't want to put an age on it, but they're all on the wrong side of we've had a lot of at-bats in AAA. Now what? So these guys have to play. And fortunately, at some point for Vientos, it was mostly last year with the breakout season, but over the course of last year into this year, they've all made meaningful contributions with Mauricio, with Beatty, and with Vientos. And that's what you need to see because, like you said, we don't know what the deadline holds, but the Mets aren't going to keep all three of those guys, or the Mets will keep all three of them and move somebody out. Like, all these guys are not going to be on the team more than likely, you know, in a year or 2 years or whatever. So you need to know what they are and who they are. And part of the thanks for that right now is Jeff McNeil. As crazy as that sounds.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's going to be very difficult. Like this log jam that's coming, it's going to be, that's the most interesting thing is going to see how they go about maneuvering the lineup. Because look, even though everyone wants to automatically say, well, you know, Acuna can be sent down because he's the weakest of the bunch in terms of offense. But, you know, in terms of speed, he's shown his worth in that department when it comes to this team and helping them win. Like, he's still helping us win games. Like, having that speed last night was a clutch thing because, you know, McNeil hits a ball to right field. You know, Robert Hassel has a decent arm, but still, that speed changes everything, and it changes the overall outlook, and you win a ball game. So it's not like he's not providing, but at the same time, I do agree that he'd be the one to get sent down. But, you know, it's just we're at a point where these guys know, and I talked about this when it came to Beatty weeks ago. It's like they know that the fire is turned up on them, and they know that they are playing for a spot to stay here. The biggest thing is you see what's happening. Like, any player that's a part of this 26, they see what's happening with this team, whether they're at home or on the road, but definitely when they're at home. You see what this season could become. You don't want to leave. You don't want to be riding the sticky vinyl in Syracuse to the next place. Like, you don't want that. You want to stay here and be a part of something. So these guys are busting their ass to be here. So it's going to be very interesting once Vientos, who was cleared essentially from anything major, he's already jogging, he's already swinging, he plans to be back soon. So
he's taking infield the other day before the game yesterday or whatever.
So how they plan about handling this, it's going to be very interesting because I still like the idea of Tyrone Taylor in center field. I love what he offers, but still, if Jeff McNeil keeps on hitting, it's going to be very interesting where it's like, you know, Vientos DH, Mauricio third, Beatty second. Are you worried about defense? Like, what about late? Are you going to have, you know, ways to move things and maneuver things around late to make sure the defense stays tight? Like, it's going to be fun to watch. I trust them with whatever road they choose to go down, but in general, going to be very interesting to watch over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Jump into the comments here. We got a lot of good ones coming in, and, you know, sorry, we're trying to get to them. Ignoring them, strong word, but we've been, me and Ibby heavy so far in the show because Ibby and I have not done this, like he said in the open, 5-6 weeks together. So I do want to jump in, though, some of the good stuff. Corey saying what was on all of our minds when you said it, sticky vinyl. Ew.
It's a line from Summer Catch. If nobody saw Summer Catch, it was a line dropped in there.
Nobody loves the movie Summer Catch more than Matt Ibanez. I think you got that shit on Blu-ray, on DVD. I've never seen Summer Catch. I've never seen.
Oh my God, you're missing out. It's the best thing. It's baseball. It's girls. It's the summer. It's the best. Jessica Biel, come on.
Honestly, best. that sounds pretty good. You did a better job of selling me on that movie than the trailer. Zero Cool with a good one. Mets need rosters to expand to 31 players. That would certainly be great.
Yeah, that would definitely help. Yeah.
I know the old school September, you could add as many as up to 40 of your 40-man roster or whatever, and they did away with that. The Mets actually are in a position this year where that would be fantastic. I know you would have to wait till September anyway, but man, oh man, this is the kind of year with the pitching depth and the bullpen arms and the extra guys like this. This would be the kind of year you could get a lot of contributions from those folks. Zero Cool also saying Canning is at 1.2 WAR. He's getting 4 million. 1 WAR equals 6 million. He's already overperformed. Could not agree more.
Now, we spoke about that at the beginning of the year when everyone was ripping the Canning signing. We were like, guys, he's making $4 million. Who's to say he can't turn some sort of profit here? And because it was only $4 million, we said it's an easy cut. If he turns into Adrian Hauser, bye-bye. It's no big deal. But we've gotten great returns to this point for sure.
I mean, I'm sure Armand will check me or Zero Cool. They're both really good at pulling this stuff up quick. I don't know. Is Griffin Canning making less than what Adrian Hauser was making when the Mets brought him over via trade? I know it was.
I don't think Hauser's making more than $4 million. I hope he wasn't making more than. I don't think he was.
I don't know, man. Somebody in the comments check us out. Yeah, Zero Cool making a good point. Adrian Hauser is currently unhittable. That's true. Adrian Hauser going through.
Yeah, I just faced him in fantasy the other day. That bastard. He had to go out there and pitch well.
We got Carson in the house. Shout out Mets Weekly. This was in regards to me, I think, apologizing for Beatty and talking about McNeil. He says, well, I will not surrender. This isn't the end of me. You will all pay. Which is honestly, that is a great comment. We got Armand saying last time 2022 when McNeil hit 326, talking about, when I referenced, it's not like he was a 300 hitter last year and he started to change.
So it's been 3 years. Yeah.
3 years is a long time in baseball years when you're 33. Again, guys can bounce back, but you don't see those kinds of returns to form, maybe quote unquote returns to form, in a post steroid era. Like, look, McNeil was very good at one thing. I'm not even sure that you could say that he was great at hitting for a high average because he's not done it more times than he has done it, right? Like when you look at his actual career, I think he was very good at it. I think he's, I know Daniel Murphy never won a batting title, but I think he's along the lines of that kind of hitter. Like no one's going to confuse even prime Jeff McNeil with obviously not Tony Gwynn, but obviously not Rod Carew. And I would say he's obviously not even, if you want to step down, he's not even Luis Ariz. And I don't even like Luis Ariz as a player because he doesn't do anything well other than that. But man, he does that very, very consistently in terms of hitting for, an average above 300 in a time where nobody really does. So back into the comments here, Armand saying, Ibby only likes summer catch because Ken Griffey Jr. hits a home run off Freddie Prinze because he's a Philly. Is that true, Ibby?
Look, I love Junior Griffey, so seeing him at the end was always a nice little Easter egg. But no, I just like I said, it's a very light movie. It's fun. I think it was Zero Cool saying that Field of Dreams is better. Like, I'm not putting Summer Catch at the top of baseball movies. I love a lot more baseball movies, but it's just a fun, easy movie to watch. It's pretty funny. That's all.
Jumping into the comments here, Armand, Zero Cool, and Carson all saying that Adrian Hauser made just over $5 million last year. So he made more.
Canning's better.
He made more than Griffin Canning is making this year. GSD over on Twitter saying that sledgehammer is an accident waiting to happen. The signature weapon of one Paul Triple H Levesque has made its way onto the Mets on deck circle. Mostly with Brandon Nimmo, but other guys are brandishing it. Ibby, I don't think we have seen that since Barry Bonds. Other teams may have done it, but I remember Barry Bonds used to warm up with a sledgehammer in his heyday. I cannot think, again, I don't want to say it definitively. In my baseball watching life, I can't remember. I'm sure people copied it because Bonds was doing it and it's a copycat league, but I can't remember another guy like famously doing it besides Bonds. I think that was a Bonds thing.
Yeah, I can't remember anyone else either. And I know some people were even like joking. I think I was talking with Ant Rivera, somebody Shea, and he was just like, I think it's time for Nimmo to lose the sledgehammer. I was like, yeah, come on, he's Wyoming strong, he's country strong, whatever. If it's working, it's part of the fun that the guys are having in the dugouts. I really don't care, but it doesn't. It doesn't bother me that much, but either way, it's fun to see. And to your point, I haven't seen it since Bonds either. And I'm sure others might have, but when something is brought to the attention, then obviously, and obviously, Barry Bonds was always at the center of attention, and we watch the Mets every day. So we see it with Nimmo, we notice it. Maybe others have done it as well. Who knows? But either way, it's all good fun for me.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's wacky. Okay. I don't know. That you and I are not really old school fans, although we're not necessarily in the young demographic anymore either. Right. And everybody always holds on to weird things from their childhood, especially when it has to do with, fandom and things like that. Really quickly, Mark checking in saying Willie Stargell used the sledgehammer in the 70s as a pirate.
Okay.
Did not know that.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
Thank you for pulling that up. But
thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
What I was going to say was it's cool that there's so much specialized gear, right? Like it's cool that players have oven mitts to protect their hands. It's cool that, guys can wear, all kinds of body armor. Like, I don't care about like the manliness of the game or whatever nonsense like that. Like, oh, if you get hit, you get hit. Like, it's cool that there's specialized gear to keep people safe. And there's cool that there's specialized gear to warm up with. And there's all this stuff, but it's a nice harkening back to, for us, like the early 2000s, and to Mark's point, going back to the 70s, sometimes it's nice to see like a weird piece of equipment that's out of context completely. Like, yeah, sledgehammers are heavy. Sledgehammers are end loaded because all the weight is in the hammer itself. So you understand, if you've ever swung a baseball bat, it was like why that would be helpful for you in the on deck circle. So like, I don't know, I miss that sometimes, of the quirkiness of baseball, where it's like, here's a guy warming up with like a piece of rebar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, everything is like, you got this special kind of donut and it only goes on the end. It's like, yeah, that's fun. That's fun. That's fun. Give me a sledgehammer though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always cool seeing stuff like that, and I love how things have become more specialized, especially after when someone hits a home run, or it's like the Mariners give the trident, the Mets obviously take the picture, or last year was the OMG sign. Like, I love stuff like that. It's all about making the game more fun. The traditionalists who think, just get out there, be a man, do this, it's like, shut the hell up. Like, baseball's meant to be fun. I like all the different colors. I like all the different the wackiness of the gloves, and it's meant to be fun. You want to swing a sledgehammer. To John's point, you want to bring a piece of rebar in there. You want to start doing something when you're flipping a tire down the clubhouse. I don't care what you're doing. Just as long as you're going out there, you're playing the game, you're having fun, you help my team win. That's all that matters.
I agree. It's funny. Ibby, you're a hip hop guy. I'm a hip hop guy. A lot of people in the comments probably are. Some aren't, right? I'm sure that you, Ibby, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I assume that you are familiar with Queens' own Action Bronson.
Yes.
Yeah. I love Action Bronson. Johann Sebastian Baklava, the doctor, as he refers to himself, from Queens. Huge, sports fan, New York sports fan, huge Knicks guy. Just had a collab with the Knicks. He's a Mets fan. But Action Bronson has a very odd way of rapping. He says things in his songs that other rappers don't necessarily say. And so there is a Twitter account that I've retweeted a ton. I think it's one of the best follows if you're a hip hop fan, if you're an Action Bronson fan. It's called Accidental Bronson.
I've seen some of your tweets on that. Yeah, I did laugh, I remember.
So they will take things from the internet, whether it's other people's tweets or signs or things that exist out in the world, and they will tweet it as if it's an Action Bronson lyric. And one of them was a picture of Barry Bonds, and it's like Barry Bonds on deck with a sledgehammer, which is such, again, I know this is a little inside hip hop for some folks, but it's such a fun follow. And that's what this reminds me of. Also, Action Bronson very famously has Barry Bonds's stat line from the 70 home run season tattooed
I didn't know
on
that.
his arm.
I did not know that.
And it's because he's like, man, there's just no other form of excellence.
Yeah.
That you could, there's nothing higher to aspire to than Barry Bonds' 2001 season. So you know what? I mean, that is just, if you like hip hop and you like the Mets and you're from Queens, there's an overlap that you are missing out on if you don't at least give Action Bronson a try. Let me just put it that way. We got Keith. We got Keith in the house. Keith Diaz saying, John, welcome back. Thank you. It is nice to be back. I appreciate that. Ibby, look, we can probably go into the break here.
I would agree.
We could spend just a quick moment, if you want, talking about Ronny Mauricio. I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to jump into the break, or do you want to talk about Ronny Mauricio real quick?
I'll talk about Ronny real quick. The only thing I want to talk about was why I put him on the bottom was talking about presence and the things that I think he can bring to the lineup. And I know it's not about anointing anyone or thinking that anyone could be a savior or anything like that, but just the way he's carried himself so far. I know he had a big game in Colorado, as all the guys did, having a big game that one day, just pouring it on a bad team. Look, I get that it's a bad team. And it's like, you don't want to look too deep into stuff like that. But just seeing him at the dish, I think he's definitely shown that he's better as a lefty versus a righty. At least to this point, he's looked a lot better from the left side as opposed to the right side. But I just think that what he can bring to this lineup, I think I talked about it, might have been last week, probably last week, just mentioned how the power in general, I think, is what can help transform this lineup even more. And if he could be, I'm not saying he has to be, but if Mark Vientos continues to stumble when he comes back and he can't get into that groove because he can't get up from that sophomore slump, it just keeps on knocking him down, he can't adjust, and it's taking longer than he thought. Maybe, just maybe, based off of what Ronny has in terms of power, he can provide some of the stuff that we thought Mark was going to provide. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go out there and hit 25 home runs. I'm not saying that. But I do think between the two of them, Mark has 6 already. Could Ronny go out there and get, could he run into 15 home runs if he gets consistent playing time, going forward? It's possible. But I just think that he has a look to him. He has the profile, the batted ball data, like everything is that he's hitting the ball hard, like everything that he brings to the table, I really think can help in establishing what we've been asking for on the back end of this lineup, which has been very questionable. Like, where are we going to get runs from? How can we find some consistency? And I'm well aware that Ronny is a free swinger. He's going to strike out. I understand that. But at the same time, when the ball's been in the zone, he's been hitting it hard. He's been putting it in play. He's been hitting home runs. Like, it's there. I just feel that he can provide for this team what we wanted from Vientos at the start. I think it can be there. I'm not saying he's going to hit 25. I'm just saying that I think presence, power, potential outcome can definitely help us. And I'm very excited to watch Ronny continuously progress because I do think that something is there for sure.
Yes, I mostly agree. Look, and again, people who have watched the show and listened to the show for a long time know how I feel about Ronny Mauricio. When Francisco Alvarez was the unanimous consensus top prospect in the Mets organization, so much so that he was, a top prospect in the entire sport, largely due to the power potential and the fact that he's a catcher. I always said it'd be of that class of prospects, including Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio. Mauricio was my second favorite because how could Alvarez not be your favorite, right? He just has to be when there's that much. And I'm not talking about him now and whatever. I just mean as his potential and the way he was coming up. And you're the Mets. How do you not love a guy who's a potential middle of the order bat at catcher when you've had, Todd Hundley and Mike Piazza and Gary Carter and you know what I mean? Like, you've had so many guys, even guys who were great hitters that weren't middle of the order bats necessarily, Paul LaDuca and Jerry Grody. There's so much of a great hitting catcher lineage for the Mets. So, it's nice to see that and be like, oh yeah, this is the guy. This is the next guy. Let's go. I love Ronny Mauricio. I think he's a poor man's Ellie De La Cruz. I think he makes such loud contact. I think he's the kind of guy, as my cat jumps into the fray behind me. I think he is the kind of player that even though he's a free swinger, it'd be in the right lineup, you got to just let him be what he's going to be, because there is something that I think Mauricio has that none of the other guys have right now. I don't think Mauricio is going to go through a crisis of confidence, the likes of which we saw from Brett Beatty. I don't think Mauricio is, I know he's more gifted athletically than Vientos. So he's not limited by what Vientos is limited by. Now, maybe Vientos is, purely a better hitter than Mauricio is, but he's not limited the same way. I think that Mauricio to this point is a better hitting prospect to take somebody from a different class. He's a better hitting prospect than Luis Angel Acuna, regardless of what you think of Acuna. And so I think he's the kind of player that if he is hitting the ball hard when he's making contact, if the top of the Mets lineup does what the top of the Mets lineup should do, and that's Lindor, Nimmo, Soto, and Alonso, and they start to do what they've been doing over the last week and a half, I think Mauricio becomes a guy you could easily carry and bat 6th or 7th or even 8th or 9th if you want, because I just think that what he does and what his approach is will work to lengthen a lineup, because there are certain parts of his game, I guess is what I'm saying, that are kind of undeniable. You don't make a lot of 117 mile an hour contact by accident. You do that because you have the bat speed, and you do that because you're swinging at it. And so, I think that that's something that the Mets have been lacking in the bottom part of the lineup. And that's why I think he can stick. And I know you alluded to my bold prediction where I said he's going to play more games at second base than Beatty, Acuna, or McNeil. That might not come true because they seem like they don't want to play him at second because he's more comfortable on the left side of the field. But I wouldn't be surprised, maybe, if we get to the end of the season and Ronny Mauricio has played more games in the major leagues than Beatty, Mauricio, Acuna, and now even partially because of the injury, Vientos. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on par there. And like you said, like the talent itself, I think they're going to allow that talent to really, which is why I think he's getting so much rope, like being up here, like they're not messing around. They're not saying, oh, we're not, he's stronger on the left side, so we're not going to play him, even though it's a switcher. It's not like we're not going to play him against, the lefty because he's terrible as a right. It's like, no, they're giving him all the rope, and they're saying, go out there. Let's find some consistency. Let's see what you can do. Like I said before, it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it once Vientos comes back. But to what you said before, what everyone has been echoing, the same thing since the start of the season when it comes to Vientos, the only thing he should be worrying about right now is hitting the ball, because he should be at DH. Like him and Sprinkling and Marte in certain spots, like that should be the go-to for DH. Like I shouldn't, like, not to sound inappropriate or wrong or mean, but I don't need to see Vientos in the field based off of what I've seen to this point. Also in comparison to what I've seen Brett Beatty do at third base, what I've seen Ron Mauricio do at third base. Like I don't need to see it anymore. Like it doesn't matter if it's like, oh, X pitcher is in more fly ball as opposed to like, no, I don't need to see it because I've seen enough. And I can say that I'd rather have Beatty at third base or Mauricio at third base. So no matter what, when it comes to Mark, he should be getting settled in as the DH moving forward, at least.
Yeah, and I know I said we were going to get out of here and get into the break, but just to address that, Ibby, I think that is the Vientos thing at third base is the perfect example of, I think, a less controversial version of my changing of my thought about Brett Beatty, because you and I both said heading into the season, Vientos played well enough at third base last year that you don't take him off third base to start the season. And that was true. He did. He wasn't perfect, but he was better than anybody could have expected. And especially when Ronny Mauricio wasn't going to be an option, and with Beatty not providing anything offensively to that point, you don't need to rush out and replace a young player and force him to DH when he's done everything you've asked of him and he's gotten to a point that a lot of people, I think some people even on the Mets, like in their front office, didn't expect. However, when the information that you have in front of you changes, you can then change. And that doesn't mean that you and I were lobbying, or anybody who said that. I know Aunt Rivera felt the same way, Subway to Shea. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure Keith was in on that too. It doesn't mean, though, that if a guy shows you that there's regression and you have a better option, that you can't then make that change. It's just that you have to reward a guy for doing what he did and giving him what he gave you, especially if it's a young player. And I think that's one of the things that Mets fans, that baseball fans, that human beings in the society that we live in today need to kind of realign their thinking a little bit, which is you're not flip-flopping. You had this information, you came to a conclusion, now you've been given this information, and you can come to a different conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, I just think and I think the Vientos thing, playing the field, is a less controversial version of that than me saying Beatty's not a major league player.
I think that's fair. I do. I think that's 100% fair. It's like I said, it's going to be fun to watch it all unfold. It's always good. I think someone said in the chat before, they were like, when you have, and they listed off all the players, like when you have all these things, an X amount of spots, it shows that you're in a good spot because you have a lot of talent. How they go about managing said talent is going to be the challenge for Carlos Mendoza and of course David Stearns and how they want to manipulate the 26 man.
Jump into the comments really quick before we head into the break. Carson saying before, I don't hold on to anything from my childhood. Totally not still playing backyard baseball 04 to this day. That's all right. We believe you. We totally believe you. Ray saying, dude swings a sledgehammer. How can you not be romantic about baseball? I love when somebody uses that how can you not be romantic about baseball line kind of either out of context or a way that you would not expect. And that's not the most extreme version I've seen, but that's a pretty good one and on topic. So shout out to Ray for that one. Carson saying trade for Cedric Mullins and he can teach Mauricio how to ditch switch hitting. Mr. Nobody saying Mauricio is the best overall player to me. I'm going to assume that he means of Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos. And Ibby, I think that's pretty hard to argue. I think he gives you, Beatty might be an overall better defender, but I think when you look at just sheer athletic ability and talent, I think it's hard to argue with Mauricio having the best overall potential of those three guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say real quick, unless Mr. Nobody is the guy that jumped into our comments on TikTok who had the nerve to, in one of my Ronny videos, to say that, Ronny was better than Soto. I had to quickly respond to that man and say, you can be excited about Ronny, but let's pump the brakes here. He's not better than Soto. Let's comment.
For sure. There's a couple folks, Christine G saying, stop judging Vientos on this year's performance in an exceptionally cold spring. He was hot last year, especially during the playoffs. Ken Thal saying can't give up on Vientos. Nobody's trying to give up on Vientos at all. Not even close. I think that he has some of the best staying power of the young guys on the team because he's had still to this day the best singular season out of all of them. And you can even lump Francisco Alvarez and his rookie year with the 26 or 28 home runs into that. Vientos still had the best year of those four guys, Beatty, Mauricio, Alvarez, and himself. So nobody's trying to get rid of him, just pointing out where they're at all in terms of their development. Mr. Nobody saying, hey, it wasn't me. LOL. That was not him. Keith saying, I agree. Let him be him in terms of Ronny and his place in the lineup. We have Lisa G saying, hi, John and Ibby. I'm at our happy place, meaning over at Citi Field. LGM. I know, Ibby, you said, shout out to Lisa G. I hope she enjoys it being there, but I wanted to give her a shout out. You said it in the comments, wanted to give her a shout out on the show. I went to my first 2 Mets games of the year when the Mets were here in Los Angeles last week. They were great. I went to the Wednesday game and the Thursday afternoon game. So the night game and the day game, the night game was great. Yeah. And the day game looked like it was going great. And then of course the Mets couldn't hold on, but that's a great team, man. And, sometimes you lose ugly, sometimes you win ugly, but the Mets won the season series, and that's a huge, huge, huge boost. Ibby, we'll head into the break on this question. D, why does John have a cast? Did he beat somebody up? I did not beat anybody up, but if you want to know the answer to why I have a cast, I will tell you after we're back from the break in about 30 seconds. I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. We're live on YouTube, live on Twitter. We will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week at 5:30 p.m. If you haven't, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't already subscribed to the show on YouTube, go ahead and do that now. It is the best way to become a full-fledged participant in the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We were at one point when we started to be 6 away from 1,300, trying to cross that threshold. Maybe here today during the show, maybe not, but we are inching closer. And once we do, we're going to do another giveaway. So if you want to get something for free from your friends over at Til Mets Do Us Part, you're going to want to make sure to tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. Also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, all at Til Mets Do Us Part. We got some other exciting stuff where you might be able to interact with us coming up in the next week or month or so. We're working on some things. We'll get to that in a little bit. But happy to be back here. You can follow myself at John Saponaro. You can follow Ibby at poison_Ibby. We're doing our thing. We're coming up on Mets baseball. We're going to try to get out of here as quickly as we can. We got a lot more we still want to talk about, Ibby. But before we do, let's hit him with a quick word from our friends over at Independent Safes.
I see that I'm dying out a little bit here, but I'm going to do my best on this read. IndependentSafes.com. Independent Safes is protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit IndependentSafes.com today for security that stands strong. And I'm going to use this real quick, and I didn't do it last week because I didn't have anyone that I really needed to do it for. And I'm hopeful that my Wi-Fi and the hamsters can oblige me here as I try to do something really quickly. But we did introduce a new segment. We did introduce a new name. We're still workshopping it, but I'm going to run with it. And I think it applies for what we are about to embark on, which is pure stupidity. So I think that this segment goes hand in hand with what I'm about to speak on. If it will play.
Til Mets Do Us Part. Dope of the day. Dope of the day.
And I could see that my connection is not.
Yeah, you're really
right now. So hopefully you can still hear me.
We can hear you, but it's not going great, Ibby. It's not going great for you.
Yeah, I understand. Hey, all I'm going to say is I was doing fantastic when it came to my Wi-Fi before my partner decided to come back. Just saying, maybe it's the Hollywood Wi-Fi that's hitting me right now. But I don't know. Either way, the dope of the day is two, and the two people, as you get me frozen, the two people that need to be spoken about. I don't even want to say their names. It's the team across town in the Bronx, and it's some random person I've never heard of on a radio station that I don't want to speak about, but they have been awful when it comes to their pining, whining, and complaining about a certain right fielder named Juan Soto. And it's just, I don't understand why it's June 11th and we're still talking about this and why it's still a thing. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. And why people have to continuously poke the bear or
Ibby, you're not doing well, man.
On Twitter.
You're not doing well, buddy. You're hanging on by a thread. Yeah. Ibby's frozen, guys. You know who he's talking about, though. Now he's gone. He's gone completely. I guess I'll pick up for him. A lot of comments. We got Keith. We got Pantrice. We got Brad, Zero Cool. We got Rosie. So many folks know what Ibby is alluding to, who he's talking about. He is talking about Michael K. And he is talking about Danielle McCartan or whatever the hell her name is. Ibby's back. Ibby, I name names. I know you weren't going to.
You bitch.
But yeah, you dropped out, so I had to. People knew, GSD saying we know that forehead. It's Michael K. It's Danielle McCartan.
Never heard of her until that post. Never heard of her.
That's why she did it.
Never heard of her.
It's
not gonna bring traction either. It's not gonna bring traction to you. Like the thing is this: you post the nonsense. This is gonna be my main point towards the. And again, I'll just get it out real quick. The main point that I was going to get across is you do it for traction because you know it's a BS take. You know you're kicking the hornet's nest. You know it's going to get a reaction because you know what Mets Twitter is. And then you try to double down on it thinking you're going to get the same traction because then you take a picture of yourself wearing a Yankee helmet, a Yankee shirt, and holding a Mets helmet down low to signify your way of doing like big brother, little brother, that whole stupid shtick. At this point, when you're talking about a team that's in first place and Juan Soto's ripping the cover off the ball, and you post that thinking it's going to get the same engagement because you posted the times that you're going to be on the radio. And those posts You tweet it, you retweet it, you let people know again that you're doing a second night. Nobody cared. Nobody cared, which is why you kick that hornet's nest. We hear what you say. Now we don't give a damn. We're not going to mess with you. We're not going to talk with you. Nobody cares. I know people have mentioned, and I know Queens Baseball, shout out as always to the spaces on X, talking about things and saying how Michael K is going to pull up at Citi Field on a Thursday. I think it's tomorrow's game, and sit there or whatever in a certain lot. He's going to say, basically saying, come talk to me, Mets fans. Screw that. Don't go to him. Don't talk to him. Don't acknowledge him. Don't give him anything. It's not about, saying, oh, who wants to smoke? Or it has nothing to do with that. It's more about, I'm going to ignore you because you don't matter. We know why you did it. You got your attention online, and I'm not going to give you the attention that you need in person because you are not worth my time. If a lion, to his point, if a lion doesn't care about fleas that he's comparing us as fans as is the flea, a lion doesn't even mention the flea. A lion doesn't say anything to the flea. Doesn't even it's there, doesn't pay it no mind. Okay, you're not the king of the jungle. You can think of that all you want. You're not. You're garbage. Nobody cares, and you got a big forehead. I don't care.
Ivy, I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. Do I think it's weird that Michael Kay has a radio show while he's the play-by-play announcer for the Yankees, and he grew up a Yankee fan, and he's supposed to be a fair and balanced, objective radio host? And I think that's weird. You can't really separate those two things, right? So I think it's weird. I think it's dumb. I don't think he's particularly good at either job. So it's remarkable that he has both of them. But, that was what it was like growing up when Michael Kay grew up. You could get a job for a handshake and a smile. I think the worst thing about it is what you just said. It's mediocre, middle-aged dudes calling themselves lions. Like what? Lions and fleas? Dude, Michael Kay he's the Pillsbury Doughboy soft. And I'm not talking about from, a traditional, I'm not sitting here threatening to beat him up or anything like that, because I don't play that version of masculinity. But it's funny that he does. That's what's funny to me. Michael Kay's 60 years old, 65 years old? You got a 65-year-old man sitting in the lap of luxury in the Bronx in his air-conditioned booth, calling nothing but prosperous Yankee games for 30 years, trying to tell us that he's a lion? A lion? What is this? Who is this man with this ego? His head is massive and his ego doesn't fit in it. That is insane to me that this guy could talk about himself in that regard when he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing is for engagement. And at least with Danielle McCartan, it's a little bit more shameless. She's a person that some people have never heard of. That's a great one from Zero Cool right there. He's the Lion King. She's a person that some people have heard of. I had heard of her. I had listened to her on The Fan at points. Other people have not heard of. She's young. She's in an industry that is dominated by men, especially on the radio side. She's doing stuff to get traction. Now, do I wish she would just say, I'm doing this to get traction? Yeah, I wish everybody would do that. But we're in an industry where you do stuff to get traction. That's what we all do. We want subscribers. We want but we're transparent about it. If Michael Kay didn't care so much, then why does he do clickbait? If he didn't need all the jobs, I don't need this job, so quit. Quit the job if you don't need the job. If you have so much money and you're so fulfilled from doing Yankee games, then quit the job. They already took Peter Rosenberg and Don LaGreca away from you. They already took you out of Afternoon Drive. They're begging you to quit. So quit. Put your money where your mouth is, big shot. If you're such a lion, that's unacceptable. It's
garbage.
It's laughable. It's the most ludicrous thing I've ever. I don't need this. You're doing it. You do it 5 times a week, every week. That's crazy. That's crazy that you don't need it or you want to do it. I don't believe that he loves that enough to do it. There's no reason. Why would he? Because he spends 99% of the time being an adversary. He spends 99% of the time telling how he's better than people, how he's, more confident than people. He's richer than people. So why are you doing this job? You and I make a little bit of money doing this, but we do this because we love this. We do it because we love the Mets. We do it because we want to have a platform. Again, it's all transparent. This guy's out here saying, I don't need this. I don't need you guys. So quit the job, big shot. Take your big head, go to Yankee Stadium, sit in the press box, call that game, and do that till you're 100 years old, like everybody else does. It's ridiculous.
It's all done out of the fact that they don't like, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I've been saying it for 4 years now. They don't like when this team has any type of positive traction. Anyone and everyone will do everything to keep us down, to make it seem like we're lesser than, because they don't want to lose that punching bag. That's what it is. That's all that was for Michael Kay. He can claim that it wasn't for attention for his 1 o'clock show that no one's listening to. It was. It got the traction he wanted. It got the response that he wanted, so he can go out there and get more people to view his clips and do this and that. And maybe they're thinking, oh, I'll tune in or what have you. It's all bullshit. It means nothing. He, is saying these things because it's a way of making the Yankees seem greater than what they are and the Mets lesser than what they are. That's all that this is, because in all honesty, it brings it back to what I was trying to say before when I was cutting out. They can't get out of this blender that Juan Soto put them in because they were told no. And they weren't just told no by another team. They weren't told no by Seattle for Robinson Cano. No,
right.
They were told no by the New York, by Juan Soto. They were told no. The best player, the best hitter, the best free agent probably ever, one could argue, based off of age and everything, by the crosstown team. And they don't know how to handle it because they think as though that the egg is on their face. And frankly, it is on their face, because a team that's worth $8 billion does not let money get in the way of keeping a generational player. I don't give a damn what anyone says. That's the truth. And they are doing everything. And I hate this word because everyone uses it now and it's stupid. It's used misplaced, but they can cope all they want.
It's funny because I know this has been a thing with Yankee fans and Mets fans forever, but the moving of the goalposts that some Yankee fans do, and I'm counting him among this because he is a Yankees fan. That's why he's doing it. He's not doing it because he's a Yankees broadcaster. Let's be clear about that. The moving of the goalposts, you see this where it's like, the Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Mets a couple weeks ago. And it's like, I saw posts, I retweeted some right before I went on my little social media hiatus. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. I thought the Mets were little brother.
Right. That whole thing. Oh my God.
I thought you post that Jeter clip. Oh, it's just the Mets. It's just the Mets. I thought it's just the Mets. Now you've been waiting for this?
Right.
Can't be both ways. If you beat us 2 out of 3, you march in the streets. And that other ass clown, Keith McPherson, gets on the radio and fucking flexes and does whatever he does. Unlistenable, by the way. He does that. But if the Mets win, it's your World Series.
Right.
And they're doing it now. Juan Soto starts off slow by his standards. Sure. I mean, you look at the advanced metrics. I already talked on this show a million times about, you give me back half of those 95-mile-an-hour outs for hits, and we're not even having this conversation. You look at his spray chart. You look at everything. He's Juan Soto. He's just a bit of bad luck and a little out of sorts. But he starts off slow for him, and it's hilarious. Oh, another guy goes to the Mets and sucks, blah, 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 blah. Then he starts to pick it up. Now, all of a sudden, oh no, over the last week and a half, he's Juan Soto again. He's hitting home runs. He's driving in runs. He's on base 6 times, 3 hits, 3 walks, vintage Juan Soto. Well, it was the Rockies.
Yeah, right. It's awesome.
Now it's the Rockies. Can you really
moving them back?
Can you really count that? It's the Rockies. Last time I checked, Rockies historically bad. Yes, but they're still a Major League Baseball team. They're still a team that other players have to go play, and you lost to them. Exactly. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. It's embarrassing. It's a goddamn joke. And honestly, if you're a lion, if you're a middle-aged man who has seemingly everything in the world that he could possibly want in terms of money, in terms of fame, in terms of childhood dream, growing up to be the TV voice of your favorite team, quite frankly, all of this is beneath you. And that's why it's embarrassing. He dresses like a real estate agent going through a midlife crisis. He dresses like the worst substitute teacher you've ever met. The guy is a joke. And I want the Mets, I want Juan Soto to win MVPs and World Series just so I can continuously watch this crash out happen from these people, Ibby. Honestly, I know we shouldn't concern ourselves as fans with fans from the other side. And I really haven't since I was like maybe 11 or 12 years old, where I used to have this animosity towards the Yankees. I really don't anymore.
I don't care enough. Right.
I don't consider them rivals unless there's dramatic realignment and we become, division rivals or whatever.
Right.
Like,
different story.
We can talk about it. But I am starting to feed off of this because it's so embarrassing. And I tweeted it about another person who works for WFAN, who I always get into tiffs with. You and I are roughly the same age. Mm-hmm. And we grew up at a time, I tweeted this, Yankee fans used to be arrogant, absolutely. Entitled, pretty much. Insufferable, at times. But at least they had dignity.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when that Derek Jeter quote, "Oh, it's just the Mets," that was true. It was true for the Yankee team. It was true for the Yankee owner. It was true for the Yankee front office. And it was true for 99% of the Yankee fans that you and I grew up with. Because we were born at a time when the Yankee new dynasty was in our formative years. We all grew up with them. Now, it's not the same. It's not the same when George Steinbrenner dies and his son lets the Mets sign Juan Soto away. It's not the same when Steve Cohen spends more money than you. It's not the same when, you got to the World Series. Great job last year. The Dodgers embarrassed you. You lost to the same team we did. Oh, well. Now what? You're not the evil empire anymore. You can't latch onto that. They're out here in LA. So what's your identity? Your identity is living off of something from 30 years ago.
It's the pinstripes,
the pride
baby.
of the pinstripes.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
And you know what? If that's what you want, then you should have that same confidence, Ibby. You should have that same, I know we all get mad about the 27 rings nonsense, but you should, then that should be your identity. You are still the winningest team in Major League Baseball history. You are still the winningest team in terms of championships in professional sports history. Now, I don't think that means a lot in today's day and age because you haven't done it, but that should be your thing. Let legacy be your thing. But then you can't tell me that you don't care about the Mets. Right. But you can't tell me that you don't care about the Mets and then you care about the Mets. You can't do it. We spent way too much time on this, but honestly, they suck. Guys like Michael Kay are insufferable. He's a loser. He's awful.
And to the point that Ant made before, which was so eloquently put, it's about staying relevant. You're getting older, whether it's radio, we've been saying how it's a dying medium, and how, podcasts and content creation and how people take in information is a lot, it's all in your pocket. You can listen to what you want, specific to your niche, whatever it is that if you like something, you can find it. And that's why I always say this on social media, on all our socials. I say it during the show. Like, if you want Mets content, listen to the right people, stick with us. Stick with Subway to Shea. Stick with Mets Weekly. Stick with Shea and Sons. Stick with the Mets Pod. Stick with Locked On Mets. Stick with whomever you love in this space. CP
Absolutely.
And Rob. Stick with the people that know what they're talking about, who talk about baseball. Because 9 times out of 10, they're 10 times out of 10. When others are speaking about the Mets, it's never about the baseball on the field. It's about the nonsense that they're trying to create off of it to try and bleed into the baseball on the field so they can continue to be that joke. Don't allow them to do that. Listen to the people that know what they're talking about, that watch this team, that give you what you want and create the community that all of you want, which is what all Mets fans should, have wanted forever. And that's just having a good place to listen to people that are like-minded to them, that can give them the info that they crave and talk about the team that they love.
Couldn't have said that better myself. Shout out Keith saying, I love this K take, fellas. Following it up by saying, so true. Ibby, I know we have to get out of here soon. The Mets are going to start. We all want to watch it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You said we talk about baseball, but I did tease it. D asked, why do I have a cast? And I guess technically it is still a baseball.
It is. It's technically it's still baseball. Yes.
Technically it's still baseball. No, my cat did not claw me. No, my cat did not beat me up, Carlos. No, Brad, it was not from swinging a sledgehammer during a softball game. And no, Carson, it was not Trevor Bauer's vlog team. Although those are all pretty good guesses. I broke it diving for a ball in center field, hard hit line drive, sinking like base hit, not at my softball game.
110 off the bat.
Game.
110
Yeah,
off the
honestly,
bat.
it was roped. I don't know. We don't do that. We don't have the money or the technology in my men's baseball league, but it was roped. It was a sinking base hit. I came in charging all the way. I thought I was going to be able to basket, shoestring catch. And as I got closer, I was like, man, this is all split second decision making. I was like, no, I'm going to have to block it, pull up and block it with my body. Yeah. And then I got a really good beat on it. And I was like, if I dive, I'll get it. And I dove, but in such a way that I couldn't get my hand back in time. Basically, my fingertips and the ball met the ground at the same time. Ball was in my glove for a split second. My hand hit the ground. Ball popped out because I couldn't squeeze it. And I broke the fourth metacarpal in my hand, which is the bone underneath your ring finger. So that is how I did it. It was playing baseball. And yeah. No, it was better.
It was better.
Okay. It was better than that. That guy, I don't know why that guy dove.
Hassel was hit the face on that when they slowed it down. It just got crushed in the face.
Yeah.
He got lucky there.
I also want to go on record, by the way. Not only did I didn't catch it, which would have been great, but I did keep it in front of me. I did hold the runner to a single. I then stayed in the game and made the third out anyway with what we now know is a broken hand. So no, not true. Not true. I don't think Jeff McNeil's making that play. Keeping it 100. I don't think Jeff McNeil's making that play. So, okay. Ibby, I want to bring this up from Keith real quick.
Yeah.
He says, Ibby, let's go to City, man. I just told Ibby off air. Can't share exactly why right now with you guys, but I know we've been talking about potentially getting something going at City Field. I did find out that in a little over a week, I'm going to be in New York. Just found out today. I was thinking about potentially going to City Field for the first time in like over a year, which is insane, on Monday, June 23rd. It's the first game the Mets come back from their road trip and they play the Atlanta Braves. So, maybe we can do something. I'm not putting you on the spot, Ibby, but I'm just saying maybe you, me, maybe Keith, maybe Aunt Rivera, maybe we have some kind of crossover thing where we do some kind of get together. I would like to go. I'll be in town. That's the only day that the Mets are home that I will be in town. I know weekday nights are tricky, but Monday night, I'd like to give it a go.
Like I said, I'll look into it, see if I can. Weekdays are always tough for me with the kids and everything, so I'll look into it. I'll see if anything can happen. But yeah, for sure though, Keith. Like, if it's not this time, then I plan on getting out there and seeing you guys and hanging out. I know that they're doing their whole big thing today with the Soto giveaway and the Dominican jersey, and everyone's out there. And I think they're over in Lot F having a great time. So I'm sure, and Lisa G's there as well. I'm sure tonight is going to be a madhouse, and that place is an absolute vibe. And the fact that we're hearing the noise and everything that we're hearing from this team, from this this fan base on a Tuesday in June, on a Wednesday, you're selling out. This place is not just a party on the weekends. This place is a party every single time that team is home. Love to see it. I know there's some things we didn't get to in the graphic, but there's plenty of stuff that can just be summed up real quickly. That being Pete Alonso's red hot. He's an MVP. I don't know how many times you got to hear me say it over the last handful of weeks. You don't got to hear John say it. He's been saying it for the longest of times. He's been awesome. The fact that this team is the best team in the National League and bordering on the best team in baseball next to the Tigers. The fact that This team is creating space. I reposted on TikTok this morning when I talked about this schedule 2 weeks ago, when I mentioned what's coming up and how they have to dominate, and they've been dominating this schedule like they're supposed to. Regardless of what other idiots say about playing lesser teams, you're supposed to fatten up. You're supposed to kick their ass, and they're doing that. So everything right now is coming up Mets. It is. I'm pumped up. Games on, and whatever it is, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Excited to sit down and watch it. Excited to see these guys go out there and have some fun. Soto, Alonso. Hopefully, we didn't get a chance to talk about Lindor that much, but he seems to be okay when it comes to the foot. I'm sure they'll monitor it. They'll be smart with him late in games if they're up. But all in all, love everything that I've been seeing. I'm thankful that John is back. The team is back together. I'm pumped up to be with all of you, as always, on the weekly Wednesdays, red lights on, always having a blast. Appreciate all of you. LGM, I'll let my partner, have a sign off finally, because it's been a long time. he can get us out of here. Hope you all enjoy the game tonight.
I appreciate that very much. Ibby, you said a lot of the stuff that I would have wanted to say. Armand saying I'll be at that game, the Monday game where I'll be in town with friends. And that's the one thing. Look, I would love for Ibby and I to be there. We've gone to games together, not a ton, obviously, because I've lived out here, but we've gone to games together. I would love for Ibby and I to be able to do this together. But I understand that logistically, Monday nights, tricky. Ibby lives out in New Jersey. It's not like he's even right down the road and somewhere in Queens or whatever. But I do acknowledge that it's tough. It's also kind of last minute. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get out there no matter what, whether or not Ibby can, whether or not, Keith can, whether or not Ant can, whether or not some of the folks that I mentioned can make it out there, simply because it's just been too long. That's one of the things. Yeah, man, Dodger Stadium is fun. I like going to Dodger Stadium. The backdrop is beautiful. The food is severely lacking, but that's besides the point. There's a lot of great things to do, but it's not home. And from the playoffs last year into every damn game this year, like Ibby said, it has been absolutely electric. And I miss that. I love where I live. I live here by choice, but there is something about being in New York, being in Citi Field with this kind of a team. I'm going to need to experience that. So I'll give you guys more details next week, but I'm more than likely going to be there, say like 99.9%. I'd like to see some folks, like to say hello to some folks, like to meet some folks. And then to piggyback off of everything else that Ibby just said, I'm thrilled to be back. Appreciate everybody's patience. Appreciate everybody, staying engaged, staying locked in with Til Mets Do Us Part. Ibby did do a great job. Absolutely can do this without me, but I think we are better. We are greater. We are stronger when we do this thing together. And so I'm happy that everybody was here. I'm happy that so many people came back for our first show back together. 260 people with us right now. It means a lot to me. It also means a lot that people respected the fact that I was like, hey, I just need a minute. I was going through a lot with moving, breaking my hand, just wanting to be off social media a bit. So shout out to all you guys. Like I said last time, it was awesome. It was awesome to be back, and we're going to be back doing our thing for weeks and 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 weeks beyond this week. So it's just about game time. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel before we get out of here. Like the video.
Like it.
Yep. Let's get to 1,300 subscribers. This show will drop as an audio podcast in about an hour and a half or so from now. So if you missed any, you can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to it starting in about 2 hours, let's say, wherever it is you get your podcast. Subscribe there as well. Drop us a review. Do all that fun stuff. And we will see you all next week. I'm John Saponaro. That's Matt Ibanez. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. Peace.